Hey everyone, it's Lofty here. I thought I might talk about this really terrible Rift Apart review that I came across. I beat this game. I have 99% completion. I think I might have missed one optional quest, but I'm not a trophy hunter, so it doesn't really bother me. I know some of my friends might kill me if they found out that I had one optional quest to do, and these people platinum every single game that they play, so that's just not really my cup of tea. But I loved the game. I really did. I grew up playing Ratchet & Clank on the PlayStation. I also played Spyro, and I wasn't a huge fan of Jak and Daxter, but I feel like there was kind of a rivalry between the two back in the day, Ratchet & Clank and Jak and Daxter. I know some people enjoyed both of them equally, but it was just kind of that Call of Duty Battlefield kind of rivalry from what I remember. But when the PS5 Ratchet was announced, it was really hype, and I was excited to finally play a next-gen console exclusive. And this game did not disappoint. I'm sure you've seen the positive reviews, and it's been trending on Twitter, and people are just really happy with it. That's why this review in particular kind of stood out to me. Now, if you're not familiar with Quarter to 3, this guy has had a really bizarre history of oddball and controversial takes in his game reviews. This guy's name is Tom Chick. Chick? I'm gonna go with Chick. So this Chick gave this game, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, 88 critic score on Metacritic, 8.9 user score. He gave it a 1 out of 5. Now, if you look closer, he has a little blurb that sums up his thoughts on the game. If you like ray tracing, slower frame rates, and crushing familiarity, you're going to love the latest Ratchet & Clank. Okay, nothing in that blurb makes any sense at all if you've played the game, and we're going to talk about how he maybe came to these conclusions, but I want to start with ray tracing because literally the first half of his review is about his anxiety over optional performance settings. Let's just dive into it. What a great time to be a fan of ray tracing, whatever that is. Tom, Chick, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of video game reviews. How do you not know what ray tracing is? Whatever that is? Then he continues, I couldn't tell you what ray tracing is if my life depended on it. Something to do with reflections and light. I figure it's like lens flare. If I notice it, it's not doing its job. Tom, here's what you do. Go to Google and type in ray space tracing. Ray tracing is a rendering technique that aims to stimulate the way light bounces off objects, in turn creating more realistic shadows, reflections, and lighting effects. Okay, now that we have educated Tom, and I know that I'm being a little bit harsh here, but this guy's review is really, really bad. He goes on to talk about the performance options. One of the advantages of an exclusive console game is that the designers can design for specific hardware. They know its limitations and possibilities. They know exactly what they can and can't do. That's how we got seminal hits like GoldenEye, Halo, Ratchet & Clank. Talented people who know exactly what hardware they're working with, so I don't have to. I don't even have to know what kind of graphics GPU is in a PS5, which is great because I couldn't care less. I have a PC for that. My PlayStation and Switch are for when I want the minimum number of layers between me and the designer's intended experience. Okay, that's fine. That makes sense to me. However, after some conspicuous choppiness in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, I looked more closely at the options menu. A setting for fidelity. I could also choose performance ray tracing, or just performance, at which point the game ran smoothly. Of course, it also looked flatter. I don't have the vocabulary or technical know-how to describe how different it looked, so flatter is all I've got. This guy seems very irritated by technical vocabulary. We're talking about like resolution and frames per second and things like that. I'm really not sure what he's confused about here. But throughout my time with Rift Apart, I kept second guessing whether I should have kept the option on fidelity or whether I should step up to Performance RT. And did I really need to keep it on Performance, given that I just paid over $500 for a system to run this particular game? So I'd change the setting and then suffer bouts of third guessing, followed by bouts of fourth guessing. It was a nagging annoyance the entire time, a constant source of irritation, like tinnitus. Bro, we're talking about resolution quality, we're talking about frame rates, and ray tracing. That's it. If you look at the options menu in the game, they describe to you exactly what each option is. Now, it's perfectly understandable to be a little bit confused at first when you're going through these options and deciding how you want to play the game. You have Performance Mode, 60 FPS, 4K resolution, Performance RT, 60 FPS, lower resolution, ray tracing, enhanced lighting, VFX, and screen density are included. And then Fidelity Mode, which is 30 FPS, and then all of the additional enhanced lighting and ray tracing effects. But this shouldn't cause you anxiety, or as Tom described it, a constant source of irritation. I talked with some friends who played this game, and some people prefer 30 FPS with high resolution. Some people prefer 60 FPS, smoother gameplay, and lower resolution. It really all depends on personal preference and the monitor or TV that you're using. Personally, I was playing on a 60-inch 4K Vizio TV, and I used Performance Mode. It is difficult sometimes to notice the effects of ray tracing in video games. It's much easier to tell in animated films, the way they enhance the lighting and the reflections and things like that. But I just find it really odd the way that he frames it here. Before you respond with, "But Tom, choice is good," I'm going to disagree with your premise. Some choices are good. Other choices are merely cover for a designer not doing his job. What does that even mean exactly? I don't really know what he's talking about. Namely, tuning Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart to take full advantage of the PS5, a system for which it was specifically designed. Yet it can either look good at 30 frames per second, or not look as good at 60 frames per second, or just forego ray tracing entirely at an even smoother 60 frames per second. The constant tension between looking good and running well soured what should have been bland comfort food. Now here he goes on to talk about why he doesn't like the game, but just to reiterate this point, it doesn't make sense why someone would complain about having these options to tune the game to their preference and their monitor and things like that, when this guy has, once again, all of these video game reviews, many PC reviews. Clearly he has a powerful enough gaming PC to play these games, and the amount of effort that you have to go through to optimize your settings on a PC is way more involved and intense than what we're looking at here with Ratchet & Clank. Then we get into why he doesn't like the game. He gave the game a 1 out of 5, so let's find out what happened here. There is nothing in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart that I haven't already done in various Ratchet & Clanks, not to mention other action games in recent years. This is one of the least ambitious, most repetitive, least memorable video games I have played from a AAA studio in a long time. The same weapons, the same enemies, the same levels, the same barely interactive traversal gimmicks, the same breaks in gameplay for puzzles, the same half-baked approach to collectibles and replayability, the same insipid writing, the same joyless, juvenile attempts at humor. Okay, that's a lot to break down, and I'm not going to get into the details there, but it sounds to me like he's describing basically falling out of love with the franchise. Essentially, this game, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, is exactly what anyone should expect it to be. Then he continues. Rift Apart has nothing unique or even new to offer. The same slurry of indistinguishable cartoon biomes. Wrong. Okay, he's wrong here. The same tired level design. No, I disagree. The same progression scheme. Yeah, it's a Ratchet & Clank game. What do you expect? Then he goes on to talk about the weapons in the game, and this is actually where I would agree in that the weapons are very samey, and there's not a lot of variety in terms of animations or strategy in firing the weapons. Some of the older titles did get way more creative with weapon design, and in this game it is a bit lacking. So yeah, I actually would agree with him here. Then he talks about the rift concept. Rifts are nothing more than fixed grappling hook points. It's especially insulting how Sony has touted the rifts as somehow showcasing the unique power of the PlayStation 5 to instantly move me around between levels. Yet I'm riding the same slow elevators and sitting through the same spaceship loading screens and plodding through the same scripted traversal conversations and riding out the same pointless rail grind sequences. Okay, if you didn't play the game, you're just gonna have to take one of our words for it, but he's wrong here. There's plenty of examples in this game where the dimensional traversal in this game was actually very cool. I mean, this one level later in the game, you're literally going back and forth between dimensions, and there's no lag, there's a seamless transition. There are these pocket dimensions that you can seamlessly enter and exit, and these are scattered throughout all of the planets that you find in the game. It just seems like he's really exaggerating his negativity here for the sake of bumping it down to a 1 star. And then he just kind of goes on a rant about how bad the story is in his opinion, and talks about how unfunny the script writing is, and he says, "There is not a single worthwhile joke in this limp excuse for a comedy." And honestly, I don't really know what he's talking about here either. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
My name is Pierre Lafayette, pirate extraordinaire.
I mean, this is no Toy Story. You're not going to get a Oscar quality screenplay here. There wasn't too many like edgy jokes that I know the old games kind of used to play with a little bit more, especially with the titles to the games themselves being pretty funny sexual innuendos. But again, this is just an extreme exaggeration in my opinion. And then he goes on to talk about the game not being polished, which is a lie. He says, "There's far too much falling off or even through the level design. This did happen to me one time, literally one time, and I just restarted my checkpoint." So this guy is, again, just really fishing here. I had a number of weird sound bugs that had me digging around in the audio settings. I never had to dig around in audio settings on a console game, yet I spent more time in the options menu of Rift Apart than I've spent in the options menus of all the previous games combined. I honestly have no idea what he's talking about here. And to top it all off, it's a short game. The whole thing is linear, with occasional choices of which order to do the next 2 missions, with only minimal exploration and very few side quests. Okay, all of this is, again, expected. This is a Ratchet & Clank game. It's not a Ubisoft, Bethesda open world experience. I mean, this is one of the most negative reviews I think I've read in years. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. No game is perfect. You're going to have people who don't like certain games. You're going to have people who love games that are universally hated. But this review just really is a negative review for the sake of negativity. And it's interesting, Tom got into a bit of an argument with some of the commenters below. Forge Forsaken says, "I feel like you and I played 2 different games." And then Tom responds, "Well, it's possible since I didn't buy the premium edition," which is just a stupid comment. The premium edition comes with like 5 armor sets and some photo mode stickers. And then he goes on to like argue with a dozen other people in the comments. You guys can go read it. It's pretty entertaining. And to wrap this all up, Tom is just a really negative person.
Stop it. Get some help.
Don't listen to his review. If you like the Ratchet & Clank franchise, you're gonna love this game. If you like platformers, you're gonna like this game. It's just a fun next-gen exclusive, and we don't have that many of them at the moment. So thank you all for watching this, and I might be doing more of these just kind of commentary analysis videos. They don't take too long for me to edit and record, so I might be able to do these more frequently. If you guys like the video, please feel free to subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like and a comment. Any kind of feedback is more than welcome. So thank you all for watching.